as the wild birds sing. You can hear hunger crying out. The sonic echo that leaves no room for doubt. All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Make a move, do we do? As the world cries tears in our hands, are we on
Hello race fans and welcome to the World Touring Car Series live from Interlagos in Brazil. My name is Peter Mackay and I'll be taking you through all the action this evening alongside Justin Prince in the commentary box here on RaceSpotTV. Tonight it's time for one of our feature races. Just 2 races tonight, but don't worry, we're not shortchanging you of World Touring Car Series action. 40-minute feature races here today with a mandatory pit stop. Justin, it's great to be back in the booth again today. Your thoughts heading into this one?
It's going to be intriguing how today plays out because, first of all, different format when it comes to this type of round. Just a few times this season we'll see this with the mandatory pit stop coming into play. But second, the sprint races have been very, well, crazy of late, Peter. And it's going to be interesting if drivers are going to take a little bit of a calmer approach, knowing they have to think about strategy and positioning as well to try and get valuable points, knowing how valuable this type of a round can be for some of the drivers and could be opening the doors for the drivers who know how to be the most consistent.
Quite right. We certainly had a pretty adventurous round at Brands Hatch a couple of weeks ago with a number of wrecks out on track. Hopefully, we'll not have as many tonight here at Interlagos. We've had a week off. The drivers, I'm sure, will be fresh and raring to go for a 3-round swing now with Interlagos, Donington Park and the Red Bull Ring over the next couple of weeks. Then we head off to Barber Motorsports Park, a slightly unknown track for those on this side of the pond, but a real gem nonetheless. Then we go to Sebring, Hungaroring, Mid-Ohio, Silverstone, and then what will surely be a tactical race on the Daytona road course as well. I can't wait for that. But nothing much changes in World Touring Car racing here on the iRacing platform. Ross McFarlane sits on top of the standings by 27 points at the moment over Corentin Guinez for Corsim Racing. Fraser Smith has had a super season. He's up to 3rd with Wojciech Savidovic in 4th, and Oscar Mangan just lingering just in touch in the top 5. Ashley Sutton, the triple British touring car champion from the real world of touring car racing, he sits in 6th, followed by Carl Janssen, Kieran Harrison, who's had a difficult start to the season, lots of pace, but no luck so far for the Corsim racing driver. Jack Sedgwick and Jaroslav Gaibula, they round out the top 10. But it's not all about the pros. We have the AM standings as well. Michael Polishek leads the way by just 22 points at the moment from Ben Gregory, with Neil Butler and Danny Lee in 4th. Tom Dadswell rounds out your top 5. Then we're followed by Blackwell, Beard Roberts, our very own Paul Smith and Lee Berridge round out your top 10 in the AM standings. In the teams, well, slight surprise, Semper Racing lead the way over Corsim Racing, who have been dominant so far in terms of pace, but again, not quite putting it together in the races. Pure Sims Esports, they sit close by in 3rd, Corsim Racing are 4th, and the Majors Garage FSR Audi crew are in 5th. Craig Setup Shop sits 6th, followed by Majors Garage FSR Honda, Knight Rider Motorsports, Napa Racing Esports, and Pure Sims SimLab. Now, tonight we're going racing at Interlagos, a circuit that many Formula 1 fans watching this evening will know very well. And I know somebody down in the wonderful county of Yorkshire who knows this place pretty well, and he's very kindly put together a handy guide of this circuit. Here's the very own Paul Smith of Team Mad to take you around this wonderful circuit.
Hi everyone, Paul Smith here from Team Mad. Welcome along to round number 4 of season 1 of the World Touring Car Series, and we're coming to you from the absolutely stunning and historic Interlagos, the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, to be more exact. It is a challenging track, that's for sure. You've got different sectors giving you different challenges. Sectors 1 and 3, very high speed. You want to use the slipstream around here. In the middle sector, a very tight and twisty technical part of the track. It's always a little bit of a compromise as to how you set up your car. And of course today, the first of the 2 40-minute feature races with a mandatory pit stop. So the driver who can look after their tyres the best will certainly be on for a good result here, because track temperature is known for being rather hot around this venue. But what's it like to do a lap around here? Well, come join me, won't you? So here we are then, coming up to the final real corner, Junsao. Important to get the run out of this corner and up the hill because you're carrying the speed all the way up here. It's a very steep incline, is this, as you're heading towards the end of your lap. Foot absolutely to the floor here, using as little of the track as possible. Coming across the start and finish line then, use your brake markers on the right hand side, brake nice and light into turn 1 of the Senna S. Don't go too far wide in the first part because it sets you up for the right, then curve de sol through this long sweeping left-hander, flat out once again as we head downhill towards the fourth turn of the race course, which is Descida de Lago. Look at your brake markers again, just around the 100-metre marker. Be careful not to run too far wide on the right-hand side there because you will get an off-track penalty. Ferradura is the next corner. Tricky corner to get right. You need to carry the speed, but you also need to hug this inside to a degree. Let the car naturally come out to the left and then onto the brakes. Get it nicely onto the apex. Open up the left here. Nicely on the power again, using all of the curbs, using all the track that you can over to the left hand side for Bico de Pato. Duckbill onto the power once again. Plunge down here, downhill here through the left hander. Again, using all the curbs that's available to you. Final corner. And then uphill once again. Slipstream is going to be key, as I said earlier. It's going to be the king through sectors 3 and sector 1. Come across the line here. Take the line of least resistance across the line. That's a lap of this amazing venue. So, it is a tricky track to get right. You've got to compromise your setup to a degree. You've got to have a car that's good rotation-wise, but you've also got to have quite a bit of top speed and grunt out of the corners as well. Expect there to be plenty of action, plenty of drama with the pit stops happening in both races, and of course an inverted grid for race number 2. I hope you enjoy this one. Should be a cracker.
So, this is how they start then for round 4 of the World Touring Car Series. It's another Core Sim Racing lockout. Kieran Harrison and Carl Janssen. Ross McFarlane, the championship leader, will start from 3rd, with Wojciech Severovic rounding out the top 4. Josh Thompson and Corentin Guinez, they make an all-star top 6. Michael Polishek and Oscar Mangan are on row 4, with Jake Blackhall and Dan Holland rounding out the top 10. Ashley Sutton will start 11th alongside Mark Fletcher. Ollie Peacock and Rafael Dressage will start on row 7, followed by Jack Sedgwick, Bobby Thompson, Tyler Maxson and Fraser Smith. Mickey Doble will start 19th, followed by David Baker, Pete Newman, Craig Williams, Neil Butler and Alex Neller. Then it's James Corp, Jonathan Walker, Yaroslav Kibula, Mikel Garcia, Elliot Roberts and Paul Smith, your track guide driver, rounding out the top 30. Ashley Beard will start 31st, followed by Lee Berridge, Jamie Rushworth, Callum Reed-Garton, Ben Gregory and Simon Field. Then it's Adam Hedcock, Dan Robbins, Andy Scheel and Robert Lundgren. So, our riders are lined up, ready to go, eager to get going into this 40-minute feature race. One of 2 this evening, and then we'll have a partly reversed grid at the half-time break as well, and that will surely change the complexion of things for race 2. The lights were beginning to show, the revs will rise. Kieran Harrison will lead us away into 40 minutes of racing. Off we go, green, 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 here at Interlagos. Down to turn 1 they go, and Kieran Harrison gets the perfect getaway, managing that wheel spin really well. These machines have got quite a lot of power for front wheel drive, and all of the drivers get through cleanly. Into the Senna S they go, and then back on the power, neat and tidy. Be careful not to run into anybody through there, but JP, looks like the drivers are all in their best behaviour today.
For the most part so far, other than maybe Josh Thompson, he got nearly turned twice in 3 corners, just noticed, by Michael Polasek, as well as one of the core cars. Polasek going for the dive. It's 3-1 to the Hornet of the Hornet's Nest you just seen as well. This is not the easiest time to try and get into a rhythm because, well, everyone's bunched up for 1, but for 2, these drivers already showing if you want to pass them, you have to do it very quickly. They're not going to give it up easily, as we've seen. One driver nearly turning sudden.
Oh dear, yeah, you've got to be, if you go into battle with Ash Sutton, you better bring your A game because he is so fierce in close combat as well. He will race you very hard indeed. That's what's got him to the top of the podium 3 times. In at the British Touring Car Champion, a 3-time champion and many race wins. And running the colours of his new team, the Napa Racing outfit for Motorbase. He'll be in a front-wheel drive car this year in the British Touring Car Championship, so this is maybe some good practice for him in the Hyundai Elantra NTCR. Not, of course, seems to be the preferred car, the Hyundai Elantra. It seems to have that little edge on pace for now. A few less drivers taking the older Audi RS3 and indeed the Honda Civic Type R. So very much the Hyundai Elantra, the Korean machine, being the car of choice, although built in Germany, in Asenau. So 38 minutes on the clock now, and the drivers all having to plan when they take their mandatory pit stop. And this is something we're not entirely used to here so far, JP. This is a brand new championship, and you know, normally it's a 20-minute sprint and it's just knives out and off we go. But with this added pit stop, well, it adds a whole new element.
Yeah, that's an understatement, to say the least, because if you haven't done your preparation, know the exact mark you might have to come into the pit lane, knowing the 35% fuel limit for a majority of the drivers for today. The thought process has to be, do you know exactly how far you can go? Can you go X amount of minutes past the halfway mark? Do you have to go strictly at halfway, no exceptions? Can you save a little bit of fuel to stretch that out by 2 or 3 laps and go for an overcut to keep your options open? What track is it in turn at? There's so much to think about in turn, and that's why I think for some of the drivers, now that a few of the battles have settled, they want to get single file. Then you have drivers such as, where we were keeping an eye on towards the heart of the pack, like a Tyler Maxson, we're just saying, you know what, let's go side by side for 4 corners straight.
Yes, of course, Tyler Maxson, real world racing driver, races this very car, the Hyundai Elantra. In fact, a junior driver for the Hyundai factory, races in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. Put it on pole at Daytona a couple of weeks ago, and well, we're at the moment, well, Tyler Maxson and Fraser Smith battling over 17th position. There's Tyler up ahead, running his familiar number 74. Fraser Smith, of course, 3rd in the championship, Justin. It's been a super start to the season for Fraser in the Audi RS3.
And that should be too much of a surprise, knowing some of the experience with that group with full send in, knowing the preparation. The bread and butter is this type of racing, whether it's the club kind of events, when it comes to Michael Polasek, or when it comes to touring cars. And it shouldn't be a surprise to see them do well when it comes to overall consistency. But the main thing that keeps on popping up, I mentioned this with the GT side as well, is Core's been indicating they want to make it the year of Core at this rate, instead of just the month of Core in January. That's why I think you have the 1-2 up front and so many fast drivers from that group in this type of car as well to battle with full send.
Yeah, I mean, Core Sim Racing, you're right, Justin. They've definitely gone on a spree in terms of signing up the real stars of Tin Top Racing in the iRacing platform. Kieran Harrison, Carl Janssen, your P1 and P2 at the moment. Corns and Guinness in 6th. They're all real all-stars in this type of car. Real, I mean, specialist doesn't mean they can't drive other things, but this is really where they really excel, as well as Mickey Doble. Oh, shows a little nose up the inside of Fraser Smith there. Mickey Doble, an absolute wizard in BMW compact racing cars here in the United Kingdom. I've called a couple of his races at Knock Hill actually as well, so he'll know. Well, we're not going to Knock Hill unfortunately in this World Touring Car Series due to the sheer bulging grid size that we have here in this championship. Despite it being on its first season, we've got, well, on the entry list up to 50 cars, but 42 racing today. Of course, with a number of real-world drivers taking part, the commitments of such do get in the way sometimes. As one of the Craig setup shop cars has a wee look up the inside. Oh, and does get the job done on Mickey Doble. Just.
I believe that's one of those. Greg Williams nearly around that grouping. Well, Neil Butler in that grouping. It is Sedgwick who is also looking to have a little bit of fun, to say the very least. It is worth noting, though, we talked about championship standings. 2 drivers started for the pits today. 1 did not come out of the paddock, though, in the 007. Benjamin Gregory was one of the 2. How big is that? He's 20 seconds back of the nearest car still.
Wow, that's a huge punishment as well for a pit lane start to have that level of gap back, and that's going to be hard to really get back. So Ben Gregory, there he is on screen. He'll be hoping for a complete reverse grid. We between race 1 and race 2, we have the infamous spinny wheel, which decides how big a reverse grid we have, and Ben will certainly be hoping for a high number to make sure that he gets a good grid spot for race number 2. So Josh Thompson has just set the fastest lap of the race. He's in 5th position in the number 51 car in his Hyundai. But he's got Corrington Guiners right on his case there as well in that white and orange Elantra N TCR, whereas Josh Thompson, well, we certainly won't miss Josh out on track. JP, that sort of, I can't even list all the colours on that machine.
Well, you have magenta, you have teal, you have yellow, you have black, you have a little bit of white for the numbers themselves. I think I may be missing 1 or 2 colors at the very most. But keep in mind with Josh Thompson, he's also someone that is looking to get him a bit more on the fun side. He's with essentially the community team that is affiliated a bit with some of the different drivers who are in the field for this season. But also when it comes, funnily enough, to PES competition this year, I talked with him before the first round, he's listed in and is running that independent essentially, where he's focusing on working on his own, trying and figuring out how things can go on that side. So it's an intriguing backstory in turn for Thompson. Now he's going to perform at the pro level, but in turn, he showcased on the track in this series in particular, you put him in a strong car, he's going to be up in the front, inside the top 5, despite some of the starting positions, as long as he doesn't get into contact.
That's the key here in the World Touring Car Series, is just clicking off those consistent finishes and staying out of trouble, and that's what championship leader Ross McFarlane really has mastered. He's won touring car championships in the past here on iRacing with a very similar format, and has is won those championships through sheer consistency as well. We've seen Kieran Harrison, this is the thing, Justin, isn't it? We've seen Kieran Harrison put it on pole position, lead from the front in race 1, and then the whole night just falls apart tonight. You'll really be hoping that that's not the case today.
You can't afford to be able to fall behind when it comes to this type of format, when it comes to this type of racing in general, because there's not too many opportunities to be able to have a more calmer feel compared to the you've got to get spots, we got to make the pass, we got to go now, you can't afford to be able to wait, you got to make 20 passes in the span of 2 laps. You have the time to be able to be calm, cool, and collected, focus on strategy, more so than focusing on trying to drive straight through every single car and hope you manage to finish in first from 37th starting position. It's just the nature of this type of a race, and if you're better in terms of longer form events, this is the round for you.
Absolutely, yeah, it is. Well, we'll see who's going to have the edge on the pit stop timings. At the moment, Corson Racing in a really good position because they've got a lot of drivers up front. Harrison and Janssen in 1st and 2nd. Guinez, he's there in 6th. However, does have the attention of, in fact, Ashley Sutton battling away now with Oscar Mangan, who's in there as well. So we've got 4 Corson Racing cars up there in the top 7. That's a very, very healthy position to be in from a team standpoint as well. But you can never write this driver off. Ashley Sutton's such a fast driver. Of course, won 3 British Touring Car Championships, all in rear-wheel drive machinery, one in a Subaru Levorg. It's basically a Subaru station wagon, and then the last 2 years in a Infiniti Q50 for Laser Tools Racing. But a new outfit this year, Napa Racing, in the Motorbase run for Focus as well, and he'll be racing alongside Dan Camish. Now, I don't, unless I'm mistaken, JP, we haven't got his teammate Dan Camish this week.
I believe you're correct. We haven't seen too much of him today. I know both of these Napa cars, though, at Brands Hatch had some adventures, especially when it came to Dan's side of things, because he got turned around a few times. Sutton at one point was involved in the massive one down the hillsides. It's been an up and down campaign for Sutton. And the intriguing thing is, he's quietly in the mix for the top 5 of the point standings, despite all the incidents and despite the trouble, being able to get himself established fully inside the top 10 in some of the inverts. And I think that just shows still, when you are able to stay out of that trouble as a driver, you can score points well. And Sutton, talent able to back that on up. Of note, one of the drivers who started at the back, we mentioned the drivers charging from back to front in sprints. One of the drivers who didn't qualify was the 989, Michael Abdoka. Duncan, I should say. He is in 25th, up 16 spots already.
That's great work so far from Michael Abdoka to take so many spots so early. Brilliant stuff. It is just right behind Ash Sutton there in that very distinctive blue and yellow Napa Parts livery. You have Dan Holland in that blue and white machine there as well, keeping very close tabs with Sutton. Of course, this is again a little bit different to what we're used to here in the World Touring Car Series. In a regular World Touring Car Series race, we would only have 8 minutes to go to the checkered flag, and things would start to get a little bit more frantic. But it's interesting, Justin, here that none of the drivers... Oh, just as I say that, we've got a Corson racing car having a big lunge into turn 1 and down into the Senna S's. I think that might have been Guinez on Thompson.
Oh, once Sutton's lost a spot too because he hit the back end of a core car as well in Magnan. A bit of a difference in the brake marks and opened the door for Dan Holland. And those are the mistakes as a driver you just can't afford to make, especially since this pack's been trying to work together to close back up to the top 5, top 6 or so, and they may have cost themselves a bit here as a result of that shuffling. Same can be said for 5th and 6th from near contact and send.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how at this stage it's a completely different set of circumstances where if you just lose that little bit of momentum, you just battle that little bit, you will lose so much time. These are momentum race cars, they don't have enormous amounts of power compared to their weight, and of course only front wheel drive as well, so if you scrub the speed off, it's very difficult to get it back up again without losing a lot of time. So you can actually see how the battling between Mangan and Thompson has been, my apologies, Guinez and Thompson has just thrown them back a little bit off the bleeding 4. But Mangan now got past Holland, or Holland's gone just behind him, and then of course it was actually Sutton that got kind of roughed up the most there as well, which is, you don't really say very often. There aren't too many hand-to-hand combats that Ash Sutton goes into and comes off second best.
Absolutely, and the interesting thing is too, in the midst of this secondary train, is in the midst of the drivers right on behind, you have the AM leaders here too battling. You have not just Michael Polasek, but Ollie Peacock, who do have technical alliance affiliations, the second and first place drivers right behind him in that class for AM side for full send. And Peacock made it clear, it seemed, he was not afraid to go for the full send on his friend in the backdrop. You see that battle right behind them, and here comes a peak now.
Oh, that's Dan Holland having a little look on the quarter panel there of Oscar Mangan, but Mangan just gets the door shut just in time. But Michael Polishek right now in 10th position. Oh, as Holland does another look again as they head up into the infield section up at La Reina. But Mangan just knows exactly where to place his car, or does he? Oh, Holland really looking threatening now as well, and Mangan having to go defensive, which of course in turn is giving more and more time away to the leading group. They're now 4 seconds up the road to the next car of Josh Thompson in 6th place here. The door was open there, but couldn't quite get it through, could Dan Holland. But Michael Polishek here, he has 2 kind of notable achievements in his grasp at the moment. Number 1 is he's the leading AM class driver, signified by the blue number on our timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen. But also, he's the top non-Hyundai. We've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Hyundai at the moment. And then it's the first of the Audis, which is Michael Polishek. Incredible dominance by Hyundai so far.
Absolutely, and again, lots of talent when it comes to that respective camp for that respective car, and just the preference and that Mark II and the feel and the speed and the newness when it comes to that side of the car. But the interesting mark when it comes to, again, Polishek has talked about a little bit in the past, has been he prefers more so the Audi when it comes to some of the special events we've seen in the past endurance-wise. And in turn, as well when it comes to maybe some of the fixed series, have seen him be somebody that can drive up to 10 seconds away, depending on the field and who's in it in turn. Polishek's a strong driver, and I think he's really elevating that Audi to be able to keep up with the rest of these Hyundais in the midst of this pack.
Particularly as well when you look at the fact that the Hyundais are all driven by pro class drivers as well. Polishek driving well, but his teammate, the number 23 of Ollie Peacock, he's in a Honda. So the AM class drivers bringing some different machinery up into the mix here with the pro drivers, which is quite interesting. But yeah, of course the Audi RS3, renowned for its durability and its stubbornness in the face of impact. No wonder it makes such a good endurance racing car as well. So we're coming up to about half race distance of this race. So I wonder when we'll start to maybe see some drivers thinking about taking a pit stop, but no takers yet, JP. Certainly not at the front of the field. We've had a few down the order who I think have had to take pit stops to repair damage, but when are we going to see? I wonder when are we going to see the deadlock broken here at the front?
Well, if you do the mathematical equations, how about right now?
Aha! Oh, it's almost as if we meant that. We didn't pre-plan that, folks, but there we go. So we have the number 23 Full Set Racing Honda comes to pit lane. Ollie Peacock comes in for service. Swap of fuel. And we'll get back out and going again. We've got more takers further down the order as well. And Peacock's already on the way. And just to give you an idea, folks, how long did he spend in the lane? Just 7.9 seconds, JP, in the pit box at the pumps.
I was going to say, this was around that mark where, with how close it is to the halfway mark, with the estimated laps to go being under 14 to go, this is the time you start seeing people peel on down. We may see drivers go in about a lap and a half, be able to get around that halfway mark of the clock and halfway through the estimated order. So expect a lot of peel-offs now, especially knowing some of the front runners electing to take that stop. Peacock in turn. I'm curious though if he's going to be able to pick up time, knowing he's now on the undercut strategy. Will be wants those maybe a bit tighter on the field at the edge of the race, Peter, but at the same time has cleaner track. Not too much for anyone, I should say, to draft off of, but also how is that going to factor in when it comes to traffic management? Because here's the thing, Peacock is only 28 seconds back after the stop and only 5 seconds behind Paul Smith.
Yeah, he's going to hope that the sea kind of parts in front of him, isn't he? He's going to hope that there's a lot more takers to pit lane. Interestingly, Dan Holland has finally got past Oscar Mangan now, and he's starting to pull some car lengths away, so I'd be surprised to see Holland come to pit lane now as well, because he's put so much effort in to get by. And right enough, he keeps going. No takers from this leading bunch here. So they carry on then. Holland just keeping an eye in the mirror. And Mangan now looks a little bit threatened by Ash Sutton there in the blue and yellow Hyundai. So will we see some more takers to pit lane? Bottom right of your screen, Tyler Maxson. The young teenager, this superb real-world driver. I mean, his pole position lap in the Michelin Pilot Challenge at Daytona, in the wet, on slick tyres, where he put it on pole by over a second. It was just sublime driving, and for someone of such tender years, but his competitors here, Justin, they're not showing the same tenderness here. Oh, that's not tender either. Oh, Biff. That's
Black Hole. That's Polishek with Black Hole, and that was for the AM lead.
Well, we certainly had that. The stewards have been very busy in the good job we had 2 weeks to do it rather than the usual one to look after the incidents at Brands Hatch 2 weeks ago, but that will definitely be taken a look by the stewards after the race. There's no live stewarding as such, so that will go unpunished for now. But Justin, I mean, what do you think? That was pretty cut and shut there.
Yeah, it looked like Polasek tried to take a peek to the inside, but tried to show the nose. Didn't quite get there. That's the quite thing on the send. And just as the arc started to come down for Black Hole sent right off the racetrack. Just nothing Black Hole I think you can really do just with how tight it was. It looked like Polasek maybe tried to back it up. But again, he was committed to that, and Black Hole gets sent off.
Ironically, it was only a part send, and they often don't come off very well in the full send racing Audi there. Right, so what that means then is Polasek holds on to his AM lead, and in fact has a commanding lead in class now in 9th overall. So now Ash Sutton on pit road then in the number 1 car. He gets going. How long did he? Now this will be interesting, JFB, to see if there's any disparity in the pit box times, and there is. Ash Sutton 1.3 seconds quicker than Peacock in the fuel stop.
And I think that's partly because of how long he's been able to push it forward, just past the halfway mark. Keep an eye on the clock, mind you, Peter. But I think something's just happened to the 79 because he is falling down the pylon. He is stopped on the racetrack. One of the drivers in 16th last time just stopped on the racetrack, Peter.
That's very strange. Yes, okay, let's get a look and see what happened then as well. Oh, that's Savidovic. Savidovic gets nerfed by Josh Thompson. Oh, dear me.
Yep, that's the 79
Not
actually.
Savidovic, it's sincere apologies. It's his teammate. I've done that twice this season already. Oh, dear me.
Well, similar looking car, but still, similar looking move to the previous incident we just seen, Peter. Trying to go for the send, got to the end of the fender, bump and bang, end up having the contact, and that cost the 79 tons of track position in turn. As here's the thing I was about to mention, Peter, before that. The more longer you can go on this run, the less fuel you have to put in the tank in theory. Meaning the less time you can spend in the box. That's going to be absolutely huge. Polasek is in.
Okay, so wonder if Michael Polasek might be take a little bit of repair if there's any need to, but there doesn't appear to be any mark whatsoever from that contact, so he'll just take on some fuel. But yes, just to confirm, folks, there, apologies for my overexcitement. That was Rafael Dressaz, the teammate of Wojciech Savidovic, who was turned around there as well. So apologies for Savidovic fans. He's still in 5th position, although he does have Josh Thompson behind him, so although there is a gap between them. But back at the front, Kieran Harrison once again showing his trademark serenity, where he's just completely unruffled at the front, as Jack Sedgwick making moves now. Up into 9th spot in the Honda.
Trying to defend.
That was
Bobby Thompson hard into the turtle.
Dan Holland there. Sorry, but Thompson, I've done it again. Thompson, having a good night, aren't I? Goodness. Bobby Thompson, so Bobby Thompson, again, teammate. Bobby Thompson, a real world British touring car driver, and just clipped the carb on the inside there and nearly rubbed the edge of Jack Sedgwick's Honda, but they both get through cleanly. So they carry on then. But back at the front, Kieran Harrison and Carl Janssen are absolutely nose to tail, and this is something that Kieran Harrison is just so good at, just handling that pressure. But here comes Janssen now. Janssen's got a big run on him as they come down towards turn 1, and there's Ross McFarlane just waiting to pick up any pieces. But there's no friendly fire there, Justin. There's just that is team formation flying absolute out the textbook there as well, and McFarlane, he's just biding his time. I wonder maybe even soft pedaling a bit with the fuel saving, and Bobby Thompson using his British touring car credentials again to muscle his way straight past Jack Sedgwick.
Yeah, Sedgwick tried to arc it on in while Thompson was going for a little bit of a wider arc, let's put it that way. And Thompson, keep in mind, before that we've seen in the corner of the screen, was trying to send it much deeper into the braking zones, so it feels like Thompson may have thought, I'm quicker, I'm more confident in the brakes in a lone run here, I want to go. And Thompson definitely making that known there. Here's going to be the interesting thing for the leaders, too. They're stretching out to what would be nearly 15 laps this time by, 15 total if they do take the the stripe staying out on the track, it's not going to be easy to dictate who's going to be peeling off too, because with everyone trying to cut to as hard to the left as they can for the quickest line, Peter, that's also just so happen to be the line for how you get into the pit lane. So if you're, say, full speed and the driver in the middle of a sandwich like this decides to pit and the driver behind doesn't, you need to have to be aware to that.
It's an excellent point, Justin. Really excellent point, because you're right. If the driver thinks that you're going to carry on and instead you go into the pit lane and you hit the brakes, it could cause a big wreck. You're absolutely spot on, and that's one of the unique challenges here of the Interlagos circuit. You get a great view there on our camera of the two course and racing cars. That is really tight, so you've got to try and signal to your fellow drivers, really, not by using the indicators, of course, but signaling by the way you position the car as best you can. There goes Sedgwick, so he's done that, exactly. So he's been involved in a bit of a tangle there with Bobby Thompson a couple of times, thought, you know what, I'm going to jump out of this and I'm going to come in and put some fuel in this Honda Civic Type R. Wonderful looking car at the front, really, really cool car. It's what should we say, Justin? The styling of the Honda Civic Type R is divisive. I really like it, but I know plenty of people who don't.
I mean, it looks like a car you would be able to drive on the street.
Yeah?
I mean, I've seen that around a few times in the street in Canada. But I will say, it's a little bit of a more tighter build, it seems, in terms of the body frame and the size of the car from nose to tail, it seems. But it's also, at times, we've seen, had some decent runs, had some bumps and bangs, to say the least, and this Honda is now bumping into an Audi.
Oh, that's Polishek again. The Michael Polishek, he's certainly picking plenty of fights there as well, but Sedgwick didn't really give him a lot of room, it must be said. I don't know if he maybe didn't see him or whatever, but anyway, they make a little bit of a rub, and Jack Sedgwick could be getting close to accumulating a pretty significant number of iRacing incident points, Justin, and you just give our viewers a rundown of how that works on the iRacing platform and how they're handed out.
Well, how it works for this series, for this race today, there is a 21-point incident limit, meaning if you hit that 21 or above, Peter, you end up getting an in-sim black flag from iRacing in of itself, from the simulator, which means you have up to 3 laps to serve it. You don't serve it, you get disqualified and or sent to the very back of the pylon. So that's going to be something a lot of drivers have to think about with the pit stops, especially now for some of the leaders coming in, including McFarlane.
So this is interesting. The leading pair, Carl Janssen and Kieran Harrison, our race leader at the moment, they keep going. Ross McFarlane, who was mirroring their every move in third place, he's taking his pit stop. Josh Thompson just coming in right behind him. So how is this going to work out? McFarlane going for the undercut here, Justin, but he's into a whole world of traffic, it looks like.
Oh, some trouble going into the corner right behind him, though. Sedgwick, seen Peacock, bump Sutton out of the way for the AM lead spot. Some trouble in this grouping. Keep in mind, Peacock's undercut worked to take the class lead, but Peacock did so in part after moving Sutton out of the way.
Well, yeah, again, you got to be careful doing that as well. And Polishek's now taking a look on Ash Sutton, and Sutton shuts the door, says, no, you don't. I've seen that one before, but there you go then. Ollie Peacock, our first taker to pit lane, has really worked for him, and oh dear me. Just running in a little bit deep, and Sutton doing a good job to actually gather that one up. Polishek has to take to the grass in the Audi. Oh, dear me, this is, this is good touring car racing, though, I have to say, Justin. We have seen some clips and some bumps, but that is very much par for the course in this type of racing. But we haven't seen let's be honest, the calamities that we saw last time out.
Again, I'll say, you have 20 more minutes. 20 more minutes to make passes.
You cynic.
Well, there's 10 minutes to go on the clock this time, by the way, before anyone panics. But I will say, Harrison and Jensen doing a great job with how they've been in sync as team work in teammates to be able to save each other gas and use the bump trap to efficiency. McFarlane, though, the point you were trying to make, gain time on drivers like Mangden after the pit stop. How about 11 seconds up for the net advantage? But here's the thing, he's just had to pass a few drivers. It's only 17 seconds back of Harrison and Jensen. Is that going to be enough, though? The delta is about 21 seconds in the pit lane.
I think it's Ross McFarlane just came out into traffic at just the wrong time. He does have clean air now in that Pure Sims Hyundai, but I do wonder if Harrison and Janssen have just played this one perfectly by effectively going into the pits as late as they possibly can. That means that they are more likely to rejoin the race in kind of as they were, if you like, even at a racetrack as short as this one. So, but it is just exceptional, the sheer level of competence at the front. Kieran Harrison, a super touring car racer. Carl Janssen, just the same. Interestingly, you know, in the past, we've seen these two drivers be on opposite teams and be rivals for the championship, and be pretty fierce rivals at that. But to see them running in the same colours is a little bit odd. I must say, it's taken a little bit of getting used to. But they carry on again. They're really running this one to the wire, JP.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how far they've actually pushed it with how tight the fuel window was expected, right? Just about everybody has been electing to take around that halfway point. From what I'm seeing in terms of the pylon, maybe 10 drivers, make it 9 or so, with Holland now coming in this time by, have been able to stretch it to 18 laps or so, and I think that's going to really open up the strategy book for some teams who may have not ran this far, and now they may realize, oh hey, we might be able to just stretch it far and maybe take just 4 or 5 seconds of the box compared to 7 and 8 or 9 seconds.
It's fascinating. I love this format. I think this is great, the 40-minute feature race with a pit stop, and we've got another one to come for you. And guess what? We're going to throw a reverse grid into the mix as well. How reversed? Well, the spinny wheel will decide coming up soon. Now, this is interesting as well. Corentin Guinez, Justin, has done a super job. He started towards the back end of the top 10, or sort of outside of the top 5 anyway, and he's just quietly picked his way through the field. He's now up to 3rd. Yes, he's had people pit in front of him, but he's only 1.6 seconds from the leading group now.
Very curious how this is going to play out from in turn because of that decision making. Here is Guinness in particular. It's been up and down though. He's fallen back as far back as 3 seconds. He's back 1 second nearly. It's been an intriguing run for him. I've also seen the same thing before for Josh Thompson before his stop, where he fallen back more than 3 seconds to the leader. Goes within 2 seconds, back to 4 seconds, lost ground and was on his own. And we have pit stops. I think, yeah, Harrison, yes, Harrison is in.
Okay, so Kieran Harrison, our former race leader and pole sitter, has gone to the pits, as has Wojciech Savidovic, a couple of spots back. However, curiously, Harrison's course and racing colleagues, Carl Janssen and Corentin Guinez, have carried on. Now, Guinez has had a lot of hard work to do. He's had to fight his way up into that position, whereas Janssen, he's effectively mirrored Kieran Harrison's every move all through the opening 35 minutes of this race. And the thing is, JP, that's going to help with his fuel consumption, surely.
I was about to say, for the case of Carl Janssen, he actually bump draft, but look at this. Ross McFarlane, despite having to deal with some of the traffic, has used the undercut strongly. He's passed Harrison on raw pace.
Wow. Wow, what driving. Ross McFarlane has been on it the last few laps. I have to be honest, I did not expect that. It looked like Kieran Harrison had this race in control, at least with a friendly teammate behind him. But he's now got it all to do to try and catch up with McFarlane. And we've only got 5 minutes, or just under 6 minutes to go in this race. So Ross McFarlane, the wily fox that he is. Wow, that's a big wreck. That's Jack Sedgwick getting hard into the side of Ash Sutton. And, well, Justin, I think we need another look at that, because that looked violent.
Yeah, we were keeping an eye a little bit here and there in the corners of the screen on that battle with some of the pit stops going on. They have been side by side several times. I almost feel like it just reached the boiling point, Peter, because they were bumping and banging several times. Bumper cars 3 times off the corner right before the side-by-side, and then the give and take just goes away when Sedgwick gets squeezed into the grass.
Yeah, I would see that exactly the same. I mean, Sutton came over, squeeze. They made contact, and yeah, the resulting effect was a crash. I mean, yeah, Sutton maybe should have given him a bit more room there. I have to be blunt, unfortunately. But anyway, well, look who the big winner is. Carl Janssen gallops out of pit lane into the lead of this motor race. And Ross, well, actually, is it? Yes, he is. I think he's going to win the drag race down to the Interlagos. And he has. So, Harrison has dropped from first to third after doing all the heavy lifting early on. Janssen has played this one perfectly, but McFarlane's really played a good hand as well. But it's all mixed up from the order before the pit stops. Wow. 4 minutes to go. This is Janssen's to lose.
Especially since he's got less fuel in the tank total, 1 second quicker in the pit stop as a result there, and that gives him that 1.5 second advantage. One of the drivers who have been around that 15th spot all day now at 14, Tyler Maxson, for example, he's not done yet either in the pro class, fighting with Fraser Smith, who's been stuck in traffic all day. And Tyler Maxson just forcing it open and prying the gap open.
Yeah, very, very good stuff there from Tyler, but can he get this? Can he get the move sealed up as well? Fraser Smith, I can assure you, Fraser will not give it away easy, that's for certain. And he doesn't. He says, I see your game, young Maxson, and shuts the door. So Fraser Smith, third place overall in the championship, don't forget. Takes the position back again. So, but he would be hoping a little bit more than 13th place. He'll be giving away a few points to championship rival Ross McFarlane, who leads the way at the moment in first, in second in this race, but obviously leading the championship. Oh, dearie me. And of course, a very wounded Ash Sutton, of course, is in that battle for the championship as well. He's gone down the order, but where that, I tell you what, this is going to be a critical reverse grid draw, Justin, because there's a number of drivers who need a little bit of a leg up for this second race.
Sutton in that grouping, you have Alex Neller, who's dominated in some race of the past NAM class. Jamie Rushworth, we haven't mentioned him all day, started off strong on the season. Barrage has been in contention for some victories in that class. You have our drivers who have had some incidents like Jake Blackhall. You have the 989, Doka, who has a great chance, depending on the inversion, to be able to dictate his strategy. Now it's 16th. It's been busy. Speaking of busy, Blackhall's busy making passes.
That he is, and oh, making contact as well. I just heard the scrape in the background there as Blackhall recovering after a little bit of a bruising encounter earlier on with Michael Polishek, and oh, a little bit of contact ahead to, now was that Thompson or was that Holland? I think it was.
Oh, that's Baker. That's Baker actually, who's getting shoved out of the way. Sutton's been wanting to pass by Baker for a few laps, Peter. I don't like the looks of this either with the contact, and Sutton, after his lessons learned last time, giving a little bit more space compared to the last corners.
Yeah, I think he's playing it a little bit smarter there as well, just trying to make his way through. Now we've got to move for second position, and Harrison lunges up the inside. That's a beautiful maneuver from the number 93. Kieran Harrison gets the move done on Ross McFarlane, and always the gent Ross McFarlane giving a very fair amount of racing room, not giving any more than he needs to, but very, very fair. One of the safest drivers in the championship. That's why he's a multiple champion in this type of racing, because he gets the car to the finish, and he's quick, obviously. But him and Harrison are absolutely side by side, and I tell you what, McFarlane is not done. He's tried to set the move back up again to run up towards Ferradura and Larinha, and Harrison knows he's got to go defensive here.
Especially since, look at the time, 50 seconds. It's going to be tight. It was within about 5 seconds or so at the stripe if we would see one more lap, or this being the final one. Hence why they're fighting so aggressive, and McFarlane knows this with the point totals.
This is going to be very tight if this is the white flag or not. So Carl Janssen, he's gone. He's 2.5 seconds up the road in his Core Sim Racing Hyundai. But can it be a 1-2 for Core Sim Racing? Or can Ross McFarlane break their heart? Can he get this position back into second place? He lost it into turn one as well. This is going to be remarkably tight where we finish, whether we get a white flag or a checkered flag. We'll have to look very closely. Carl Janssen coming to the start-finish line now as well. He'll be hoping that he goes another lap. but I think it's going to be the checkered. Yes, it is. Checker flag is in the air. Carl Janssen wins at Interlagos in the World Touring Car Series. He celebrates, flashes the lights, wiggles back and forward. But does his teammate make it home in time? He does. Kieran Harrison finishes in second place. Ross McFarlane rounding out the podium. Corentin Guinez in fourth, and Wojciech Savidovic rounding out the top 5. Wowee. A strategical battle there, Justin.
And that's why some drivers love to have this longer type of format. Have more time to work, have to be able to strategize for pit stops. And you see that mastery come to work for the ending of this one. Janssen elected to push Harrison the entire run, essentially, to start off the action, Peter, and it helped them save that extra bit of fuel, that one lap, to be able to save that much amount of time in the pit lane, and that absolutely won him the race. He has to go the same distance at Harrison. We're talking about a 3-car scrap for the victory instead, and who knows who wins there.
Well, the one thing we can promise is we will have a completely different motor race on our hands for race 2 with that reverse grid. I mean, yeah, just looking at the pit stop time, yeah, 2 seconds more or less saved by Janssen over Harrison. That was the difference, really. It was just talking such fine margins between them. But super motorsport, real tactical battle. Winner in the AM class, Ollie Peacock. Brilliant job from the Honda driver. Now, here comes the spinny wheel, thanks to our sponsors Free M and Craig's Setup Shop, and their support of the World Touring Car Series. Now, what is the reverse grid going to be? Is it going to be a big number? Well, there's some big numbers in there. Will we get the 28? I think we might. Looks like it. It's going to be the 28 reverse grid, and that would put Tom Dadswell on pole position for race number 2. And that, of course, then means... Sorry, go on, Justin.
I was about to say that would help some drivers such as maybe Jamie Rushworth, who'll be inside the top 5 there, Peter, in turn with their finishing positions.
Quite right. So, confirming then, Carl Janssen, your winner for race number 1, confirming then that he will start 28th in race 2. Kieran Harrison comes home in second with Ross McFarlane rounding out the podium. Corentin Guinez makes it 3 Corsim racing cars in the top 4, with Wojciech Savidovic rounding out the top 5. Josh Thompson finished in 6th, followed by Oscar Mangan, Bobby Thompson, and Ollie Peacock was your AM class winner and the top non-Hyundai driver as well. Jack Sedgwick, despite a pretty bruising encounter, he comes home in 10th. Michael Polishek finished 11th and 2nd in the AM class, with Fraser Smith finishing 12th. Tyler Maxson was 13th, followed by Neil Butler, Michael Avdoka, Craig Williams, Jake Blackhall, the recovering Ash Sutton, Mark Fletcher, and Mickey Doble rounds out the top 20. 21st was David Baker, followed by Alex Neller, Pete Newman, Elliot Roberts, Jamie Rushworth, Mikael Garcia, Callum Reed-Garton, Tom Dadswell confirming that he will be your pole sitter for race 1, and unfortunately that means Lee Berridge is in the position no one wants to be in, 1 position away from reverse grid pole. He will start 29th as he finished in this opening race. James Corp rounds out your top 30. 31st was Jaroslaw Kibula, followed by Johnny Walker, Rafael Dreshaz, Ashley Beard, Adam Hedgecock, Simon Field, Paul Smith, Dan Robbins, Ben Gregory and Robert Rundgren. Dan Holland and Andy Shield, the 2 drivers, finishing off the lead lap. So nearly the whole field finishing on the lead lap. Fastest lap of the race goes to Josh Thompson. Well, Justin, catch your breath. What did you make of that?
Well, what I made of that was, it was what we were expecting, a bit more tamer when it came to drivers trying their aggressiveness for some of the positions, trying to plan things on out for the big picture. And in turn, Core made it clear. They wanted to work together, coordinate with their top drivers in the qualifying order, try and break away and control the tempo of the lead pack, and that's exactly what they did. And it played out perfectly. And the preparation in turn, I think, was also critical to be able to have that figured out. Here's the issue if you don't prepare, keep in mind. The race you've seen Dan Holland all the way down that pylon, he ran out of gas on the final straightaway, Peter. Yes, he ran out of fuel coming towards the pit entry on the final lap to the checkered flag. That's how close the margins for some of these drivers have to be, and you need to know, is it going to be 23, 24, or 25 laps? And in the end, Core had the best preparation on the pro side, M side, Peacock, with the confidence in himself to be able to work on his own on the undercut, made his strategy work too.
That he did. And let's talk about that. Strategy has obviously been the key talking point for this evening, hasn't it? Which normally you talk about touring car racing at Interlagos. It's all about throw strategy out the window. It's just a street fight, really. It's all, side by side all the time. But tonight's been different. For the drivers that are in championship contention, your Kieran Harrisons, your Carl Janssens, etc., who did really well at Ross McFarlane, who were on the podium in race 1, they're going to start deep in the pack. What options, what cards do they have to play in this opening 40-minute race, starting so deep in the pack?
Well, first things first, you need to know or need to prepare for the chances of anything to happen. You may never know if someone decides, okay, it's turn 1, I feel quicker, let's go 7 wide into the first corner. Usually that doesn't work in most cases unless you're very lucky or very good. And in turn, you need to be prepared for a lot of potential bumping and banging. Some pace differences based on some of the car fuel setups and some of the driver gaps potentially in terms of class to class. But also, that may also open up the opportunity for drivers, if they can't get up fully to the front, maybe can get about within 5 seconds. The current race leader settles out into the pace. You might be able to try and go for the long strategy again and save fuel with the help of some of the traffic. Maybe go and lift a coast a little bit into the braking zones. Back up those entries. Make sure you get towards those final 4 or 5 laps estimated and do a Janssen again. Or, if you feel you're much quicker and know that you're going to get into a gap in traffic, go for the undercut and make it work like Peacock. That's going to be critical because if you, say, are in the midst of the pack and come back out at the back of the pack, that kind of mitigates your strategy decision in turn, Peter. You have to know every card on the table.
It's very true, and there are a lot to play there. Who will play the right card? Well, we shall see. I think Ross McFarlane, if he was, if you were to say what would he do if he wasn't a sim racing driver, I think he would be on the World Poker Tour because he's the guy that seems to play it so smart in these situations. Great to see so many of you watching here on RaceSpotTV. Do not go anywhere. Unless you're going to refill your beverage of choice or your snacks of choice, because we will have race 2 coming up for you very soon. 40 minutes of action again with the mandatory pit stop as well. So, but with the reverse grid, it's going to be totally different. Hello to Dylan Hall. He says, "Come on, hashtag Team Harrison." So your man did very well to finish second. Was unlucky not to win that race because he did all the hard work. He won he won the pole, Justin. He led all the way, and you feel like he could have just run with Carl Janssen on his bumper for 100 laps, let alone 20, and it just didn't work out his way on a strategical point of view.
If they pit the same lap, I think it might have been Harrison's race, and/or we might have seen 3 wide for the race lead on the final lap. But the main thing is, Janssen knew what he needed to do to be able to help his race, and what helped his race was never let go of that back bumper and hold on to it as much as you could to save fuel and bump trap, because that's an efficient way to do so. They were just seen to be on that page. Now it's the matter of, now that the page is flipped and been crumpled up, rewritten upon, and printed upon a couple extra times, will that work now? That's going to be so important. I think if you're Harrison, though, you say, it's a great points run for the first race. I'm happy for my teammate. Let's focus on race 2 and trying to see if we can make some good points from race 2, because the points are valuable. The point totals in turn you can score from this type of a round are also big compared to the sprint, which for the win is about a difference of 35-40 points.
Yeah, these featured races, there isn't many of them, but you're right, they pay big, that's for certain. Great to see as well Keane Smith joining us as well, saying come on Ash. I'm presuming that's for Ash Sutton as well. Of course, Ash has a pretty significant following from his real world racing as well as he does in the sim, much like his fellow champion from 2021, Max Verstappen, is very keen in the sim as well as he is in his day job, if you like. I did see a funny tweet by iRacing yesterday, Justin. It was a little clip of Max Verstappen being interviewed, and the caption at the top is, "When people ask me to go out for the night," and it's basically Verstappen saying, "Well, I don't really like traveling too much, and I really just want to focus on my iRacing career. So unless I can take my simulator with me, I'm quite happy to stay at home."
Wow. I'm not sure what to really say on that, other than I'm guessing you haven't met Max Verstappen before on the sim world. Well, he's had some intriguing moments, let's say, and some very memeable moments. And not talking about the brake pedal breaking, but Bathurst, I remember a few years ago, he would go away, come back, take a break after a stint, comes back, car's destroyed. It's like, hey guys, how's it going? And then everybody just breaks down and laughs in the, the car's destroyed kind of laugh. Max likes to have fun for being a world champion.
I think it's quite extraordinary how the level required to race at the very top of simulator racing, the dedication that's required and the time, the fact that he can step in from time to time and do that. He must put in a lot of hours on his sim as well. Thor Rasmussen, hello Thor, says good evening gentlemen and racers. Good to hear from you. Wish YT says, what do you think of the Michael Masi removal? Oh, goodness me, we're going to handle that hot potato. So, for those who haven't been looking at the news today, the F1 race director, Michael Masi, has been removed from his position as race director as well. We can leave it at that, Justin, unless you have anything to add on that purely factual statement.
Yeah, I think it's best to leave it at that, because it's their decision on that mark with what happened with the championship last year at that side of the world. It's their series. It's their decision.
Agree. Quite right. That's the most sense I've heard all day, Justin. That's for sure. That is for sure. So 4.5 minutes to go in the practice session. We're in between sessions at the moment. So just we sit tight here on RaceSpotTV. We will have all the action of race 2 from lights to flag in what will be a really, I think, quite important round in this championship. We are heading towards, we're about 1/3 distance in the championship now, and we're just starting to see the horses who are coming into the race at this stage as well. But a huge thank you to FreeM for their support of this championship, where FreeM produce superb protective race equipment, fire suits, gloves, all that kind of thing as well, which are very important if you're going for outdoor racing, whether in go-karting or indeed in the race car. In fact, a number of the real-world drivers taking part in this championship wear FreeM suits in their race car. But Justin, the world has moved on immensely in terms of sim racing equipment, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, and a good pair of gloves on the way the amount of torque going through a sim racing wheel now is quite significant. So a good pair of gloves, good pair of FreeM sim racing gloves is what you need to keep that grip on the wheel.
And it's important too, because, well, you never know how your hands build up in terms of the potential of moisture or the stressful situations in the track, or the wear and tear it could be on terms of the wheel. Because one of the major things I've seen, even for the wheels I've had, is they might start to peel back a bit, they might show a little bit of wear and make it difficult to fully grip, because a fair bit of that grip is gone because of having no gloves to use that. And that's, I think, the emphasis of why so many sim racers want to use that. While you have that divisive decision possibly for some, the benefit you have to think about is you're able to preserve the wheel, you're able to preserve your own hands, you're able to grip your wheel with no major issues, and you also be able to personalize if you so choose to, and pick your own style, right? So be able to have your expression of how you want to look while you race too.
I've heard they give you an extra 1/10 of a second.
Yes,
as well. Just especially if you go for the customized one as well. So go on to the FreeM website, check out their range of products. You can be custom made from head to toe, or you can buy off the peg as well. Check them out. Also, one thing about iRacing is that it still boggles my mind the level of realism that the simulator has. And these cars, of course, are not they're not fictional cars. They have a Honda Civic TCR in the real world. They have a Hyundai Elantra TCR in the real world, and all the adjustments you would make on the real car are simulated here. Now, Justin, getting that setup right is so important as well. And you go to somebody like Craig's Setup Shop, they've got off the peg setup, which saves you all the hassle of getting in a mess and virtual spanners all over the floor. They give you an out the box setup that help you go quicker straight away.
Absolutely, and I've heard a lot of great things when it comes to Craig over the years in terms of his willingness to help, especially on this side of the platform, as well as having a lot of people who he has that connection with. We talked about, for example, the ones cooking drivers like Josh Thompson. You have people like him that's worked with him in the past. You have Craig himself, who's willing to showcase that he can also drive for the best of the best too. He showed solid pace at parts of the season. A very solid person to work around, a very notable person, and one of the OGs, I will say. If you can go that route, to that distinction for that type of work on the platform.
And yeah, that doesn't mean original gangster either. That means something else, doesn't it?
Yeah, I meant like one of the originals in terms of the platform. I didn't think about it that way.
This is honestly virtual competition nomenclature is something that I grapple with every day, Justin. I can't keep up. I sound like Grandpa Simpson here. Thank goodness there's only 22 seconds of this practice session remaining, and we can get racing. That's something I can understand, and I can tell you that we're going to be in for a real cracker here in this 4th round of the World Touring Car Series. All the live coverage here on RaceSpotTV. It's Peter Mackay here alongside Justin Prince. This is going to be a cracker, and I cannot wait as well. Thank you to you all watching in the chat here on RaceSpotTV. Cheer on your favourite drivers, give them some encouragement. They've all got spotters in their ear, so if you're giving them lots of encouragement in the chat, they will get that message through, and they'll want to put on a show for you. Justin, I'm going to be a horrible colleague here. I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's winning this one?
Benny the pace car driver.
Benny the pace car driver. I love it. Well, he's in a Porsche.
Put me on it.
He's in a Porsche, so he should win. Anyway, Tom Dadswell will start on pole position in his number 38 Hyundai Elantra. He'll start alongside Callum Reid-Darton. Mikel Garcia and Jamie Rushworth are on row 2, with Elliot Roberts and Pete Newman on row 3. Row 4 is Alex Neller and David Baker, with Mickey Doble and Mark Fletcher rounding out the top 10. Ash Sutton and Jake Blackhall round out row 6. Craig Williams and Michael Abdoka will start 13th and 14th, with Neil Butler, Tyler Maxson, Fraser Smith and Michael Polishek rounding out the top 18, with Jack Sedgwick and Ollie Peacock on row 10. Bobby Thompson, Oscar Mangan, Josh Thompson and Wojciech Savidovic round out the top 24. But the drivers, they're eager, as you like, to get back going again. We've got a false starter at the back of the pack. And off we go. We're racing. Green, green, green. Here at Interlagos, down towards turn 1 they go. Now, can they get through cleanly? Those in the mid-pack will really be hoping to get through the first 2 corners safely and then settle into a rhythm. It's very treacherous there through the Senna S's on cold tyres as well, with so many cars around you. But it looks like it, Justin. They've got through clean, but 3 wide down to Desira del Lago.
Rewind, and this could be spelling trouble for some may be watching here. Bit of smart move there to be able to take back to 2 wide, knowing the dangers of doing 3 wide there. Very tight this part of the track, and there goes Craig.
Whoa. Oh, well, no matter how good the setup is, that's going to be bent a little bit out of shape there for poor old Craig Williams. They pile down into La Riña. And then round. In fact, I missed out. I'm at Pico de Pato, and then round we go. Such a twisty curve. It's almost like a corkscrew effect here at Interlagos, and sometimes you can have the ideal line and then all of a sudden you get freight trained here as well. You've got to be so clever the way that you handle the racecraft at this track. But we've got a mix of manufacturers at the front there as well. It's Hyundai from Audi, from Hyundai, from Honda as well, so a little bit more of a shuffle of the pack as we head round to complete lap 1. They all seem to have got through relatively cleanly. The Hyundai leads to complete lap 1 with 38 minutes to go on the clock.
You see why it shows Benny the pace car driver, the unpredictability that can come into play, especially the first lap. You never know, especially if Benny decides to drive the car on his own for the pace car. Jumps into somebody else and a little bit of a jumpy on the brakes. I think somebody clipped the grass there in the midst of all that. Rushworth, though, a great job to be able to still fight for all this still.
Incredibly fierce at the front as well, but Tom Dadswell, our pole sitter, is hanging on for now. But Rushworth, I think, is going to have a look up the inside with Mikel Garcia in the 83 Honda right behind. There goes Rushworth. He's having a look into the Desira del Lago. breaking the wheel like someone we talked about in the half-time break there. A little bit of contact then as well. And has that allowed the number 58 of Newman to get by? I think it maybe has. No, Garcia says not on your life. Shuts the door into Decido del Lago, but Ash Sutton, as we've seen so many times, making rapid progress through the field. He's up into 6th position already.
What a hornet's nest, and what a drive so far from Sutton, amongst those who got involved in trouble before, and trouble is nearly finding him again with some of the bumping and banging. I'm Sutton. I'm thinking, I've got to find a way to get around and quick, especially knowing that bump from behind's coming.
That's Alex Nello getting down, well, getting really quite frisky there with, oh, and frisky again, and gives a little nerf to, oh, now this could get a whole horrible wreck here as well. The drivers have to react so quick and try and get through. Oh no, oh, there's a wheel loose, and that Craig setup Honda stranded across the circuit. Oh, and we've got a terrible Talladega style pile up. If Doka involved in that as well, and was that?
That was Polsek. That was Polsek in it too, with Baker.
Not if Doka, Polsek, of course. Oh dear me. So Tom Dadswell's got the fastest lap of the race so far. He's still hanging on, been able to keep Rushworth behind him, and oh, a little bit of a lock up there, coming down into turn 1. Dear me. Already David Baker in the chat saying that was a joke. Well, it's never good if you're in the chat on lap 3 of a race.
Yeah, it's not been a pretty round for David Baker. That's the best way to put it. As not a pretty start for Gardner, we'll say, with that slide with the tires, but a very heavy battle still amongst these top spots here. Here is a look at Gardner in particular. This is for Altitude Esports Pink, and he's being swarmed by full send cars. This is not a pretty time. Fraser Smith looking to try and bounce back from a rough first part of this round. Gets squeezed.
Oh, but there goes Fraser Smith. He's not going to have it. He's not going to take it lying down. Has another look. No, can't quite get it done. Meanwhile, amongst all of that RG and indeed Bargy, oh, as Blackhall gets muscled out again. It's been again a rough day for the number 97 of Jake Blackhall. And he's now, oh, goodness me, the intensity has certainly ratcheted up here as well. It was so after you, sir, no after you in race 1, but this is a lot more fierce. And we've come to expect this in the reverse grid races. So just have to settle in and take it easy in these opening laps. That's Bobby Thompson, the British touring car driver there in the number 51 car, the white and blue Hyundai. He's getting bump drafted as they head along the straight with the number 97 of Blackhall. He's decided to take his distance there and go for the wide line in. So you can take multiple lines here into turn 1. Thompson again goes to take the racing line. Oh, as Blackhall spins. Oh, but somehow hangs on to it.
Oh, and 3 wide coming right towards them too. That's Peacock getting squeezed off the track.
Well, update on, you can see there all the Corsom racing cars of Harrison, Janssen, Mangan. They're all making their way through in those white and orange machines. They've got to be super careful at this stage of the race, because you just need one person to make a mistake or get tangled up in front of you and you can be swept along for the ride. Just as poor old Kieran Harrison, that's happened to him on a number of occasions as well. And whoa, Carl Janssen trying to find a way through it. Jack Cedric saying, well, no, you can't even fit a scale model of a Hyundai Elantra through there, let alone a full-size one. But doesn't stop Carl Janssen from trying. And it seems like, well, I'll tell you what, with only 21 incident points available, you get 4 incident points for a contact, and we've seen quite a lot of contact so far.
A little bit of contact just up the road too with the full send cars, but yeah, if I'm one of the drivers in the mix for the championship for either the Pro or the M classes, I'm seeing all this insane. I've got a chance to go for a run. I've got to take it, Peacock. My goodness, squeezing hard.
Yeah, Peacock. Ollie Peacock, of course, the winner in the AM class in race 1, took that early pit stop and played it to absolute perfection in that little Honda, and he's now right in there with the cream of the crop in the Pro Championship as well. But that's been his trademark as Ollie Peacock. He doesn't care what, if you're a pro class or whatever, he gets himself in the mix. But look at that, the trio, the triumvirate of course some racing machines make their way through. There they go as Peacock goes wide and he loses a lot of spots. Now, who's that in the pit lane? It is Janssen.
No, that's Magnan. That's Magnan coming out.
Sorry.
He's coming with Ross McFarlane. They're going for the early call, knowing the craziness and the fact Janssen just hit somebody.
Oh, that, I tell you what, that strategy call, Justin, that could be absolutely, well, that could be masterful, because Mangan and McFarlane, if they are clever, which they are, they will work together as they work their way through the pack, and they'll be able to use that help of the draft. We heard Paul Smith mention it in the track guide earlier on. The draft is going to be important. Well, if you've got a dancing partner, to use an Indy 500 phrase, well, that's really going to help. So, well, let's keep a close eye on Mangan and McFarlane throughout the next 31 minutes.
Yeah, it's going to be very critical. Only 28 seconds back, too. They're within that range or so to be able to have a net advantage. Only a few seconds back from where they need to be able to take the overall advantage. Here's the tough part. If they keep bumping and banging, they'll be catching this pack pretty quickly. They're going to have to think about keeping their eyes open with the trouble that could pop on up. Speaking of trouble behind all this, Ollie Peacock, he is nearly getting turned, and now Bobby Thompson's off the track.
Bobby Thompson has been really impressive so far in this championship, getting his elbows right out. Of course, he's not long back from a trip to Dubai to race in the 24 Hours of Dubai in a Ginetta. Oh, now Peacock taking the early shout again. A lot of drivers taking the early shout, much more than we saw in race 1, Justin.
I think they're realizing at this point, we have to try this, because McFarlane and Magnan did after being so quick the first run. The drivers who tried it in race 1 who didn't have the track position, they only ended up around the mid-pack or so. So at this point, you have to understand, they know how difficult it's been to pass by the traffic. They know if they try to stay out there, there's too much risk to be close to the incidents, especially if you have starts like this.
Oh dear, well, poor old Craig Williams there, nothing he could do. He got full sent by one of the full send Audis and got put in the wall. Now here's another of the Craig setup shop Hondas. Again, Biff. And then this is what kicked off the, oh, poor old, you can see why David Baker is angry at that, because he was well out of the way. He was given as much room as he could possibly give, and then all of a sudden, the big one triggers.
In the middle of the racetrack, too. Wow!
Well, actually, yeah. And who was that? David Baker. Drive straight into somebody, so, you know, it's...
I'm curious that one person, though, we seen just in the grass there before that, Mark, who just decided, you know what? The best course of action to avoid being involved was to cut through the middle of the corner at grass and drove straight to the side of somebody.
Yeah, quite possibly. I think he would have got past if David Baker had stayed still, mind you, but it's difficult in the heat of the battle. Oh, there goes Sutton up the inside of the 58 car of Pete Newman. So Sutton now up to third. He's a real threat for the race win here, I think, in that blue and yellow Napa Hyundai. And I always think instead of running the number 1, he should be running the 9. I've got, whoa, this is a look.
This is what I'm talking about.
Well, there you go. James Corp it was.
Even if Baker didn't move, he would have clipped maybe that right front bumper of Baker and/or clipped the last of the cars there, which would have been one of his technical lines mates. Yeah, that wasn't the greatest of avoidances.
Yes, it was a real, shall we say, a dumpster fire there to avoid. And yes, unfortunately, just got kind of caught up in it. Anyway, nevertheless, Josh Thompson here in the 51 Hyundai. Where is Josh on the leaderboard at the moment? He's in 10th, and he's got the number 25 of Mickey Doble right behind him as well. So, two drivers with quite a lot of experience out width of the sim as well. Josh Thompson in go-karts, Mickey Doble in the rough and tumble of BMW 3 Series compact racing. A very popular kind of showroom stock series here in the United Kingdom. You buy a really standard BMW 3 Series compact and you strip it out. You put a set of control suspension on it, which is bought from the series. You put some cheap budget tyres on it, and off you go motor racing as well. And Mickey Doble is an absolute maestro in that type of racing. But Sutton is really on the move, up to second now, JP. making that well. I wonder if we'll see him go long, possibly.
I think there's a possibility too. I'm curious how that plays out in turn. Absolutely. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the long strategy because they have the track position in the first place. Why not take it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, fastest lap of the race so far, Kieran Harrison, a 1:41.925 for the Core Sim racing driver as well, and he's got a friendly front gunner in front of him, Carl Janssen. So now, curiously, the 92 of Carl Janssen, it's his turn to tow the teammate Kieran Harrison, and with a few more early pit stop takers than in race 1, it might be that the path's a little bit clearer through the mid-pack for that pair. So there's storylines up and down the order. I have to say, I love this feature race format. Oh, there's a little bit of barging around there. Is Callum Reid-Garton getting a bit of a rude... Oh, and side door straight into the side of Kieran Harrison as well. So not giving up lightly. And Harrison shutting the door quickly, saying, I'm not getting that treatment again. Now Corentin Guinness has got to find his way through. Of course, Guinness and Harrison fighting hard for the digital Nürburgring Langstrecken Series Championship at the moment in a Core Sim Racing TCR car, but an Audi rather than the Hyundai. Guinness trying to go the long way around, and Garton is not having it as well. Remember, Garton is in the AM class as well and doing a super job. Now Sutton goes to the front. He's just picking places off for fun. Goes past our pole sitter Tom Dadswell. So Ash Sutton leads here at Interlagos.
And for Sutton, it's been a while, I think, since we've seen him lead any of these races, especially with some of the craziness with the sprints. He's usually in the mix, as we talked about, for a top 10 or top 5. But now, it's going to help, I think, Dadswell and a few of the others, because some of the AM drivers are absolutely having a good job here when it comes to the saving of the fuel.
Yeah, that is true. And, you know, you could not ask for a better study than... As we see Rushworth taking a look now, and they need to be careful because you don't want to allow, you really don't want to allow Sutton to get away. And oh, that's one way of doing it. Just a little nudge to the back there. I think that was Dadswell who just got into the back of Sutton. It just loosened him up a little bit, and here comes Rushworth. Rushworth takes the inside line now as well, so Sutton will look to be in a good position, but he's had the lead snatched back off him again, and in return he goes, nope, that's my position, and takes it. So Ash Sutton, the triple British touring car champion, outdoor racer as well as here in the sim, hits the front. And with 24 minutes to go, he's really got to get his head down now, because he doesn't want, he certainly doesn't want something like that happening again, Justin, getting loosened up from the rear. Because, well, we've seen it take a lot of drivers out of the game. He'll want to get his head down here and put down some fast laps. Now, we've got they're all going to pit lane. That's bizarre.
I'm curious on this one.
How strange.
They're in the window, obviously. And, well, there's a lot of bumping and painting going on right around them for the new net race leaders. I'm curious in this one because the drivers who went for this call did, in some cases, do decently, but you have to have the raw pace to be able to make it execute. Sutton had the best pit stop, though, out of all of them, has pulled away nearly a full second, and they're all coming out in traffic with Tyler Maxson, or rather, Paul Smith.
I must say, that is a bizarre strategy call. Sutton, who was just driving past everybody with aplomb, and looked to be threatening to pull away quite convincingly, and then dives the pit lane. I have to say, well, you can be sure, Justin, that he's got a very clear plan and clear idea of what he's doing. That will not, that decision will not have been made lightly. So let's see how it's going to play out. I must say, it's an alternative strategy call. But on our camera shot there on the bottom right of our screen, he does appear to have reasonable amount of clean air for now. So maybe just saw a gap, possibly.
Yeah, possibly. I'm curious on that again, but here's the thing with all that. They have to know that people like Sutton have already taken the stop, right? So this is going to be critical in that mark. Here's the thing, too. Sutton is the overall net leader when it comes to those who have taken stops. And that, I mean, McFarlane is 9 seconds back of Ashley Sutton because of the fact Sutton had the track position. And that was the main concern I think I had from those who tried in race 1. And we're seeing that happen for race 2 again. You go for the call about a couple laps in, you need to be very quick and have a lot of things go your way. The thing is, McFarlane hasn't had things go his way. Magnan hasn't had things go his way. If anything, Sedgwick has now joined to the pack too. Now Sutton's the dictated control man of this pack and has a chance for his first victory of the year.
So Mark Fletcher and Tom Dadswell have come to pit road to take their service. So you're absolutely right, Justin. Ash Sutton is leading driver who has pitted so far. He is in 13th. The second driver who has pitted is Jamie Rushworth in 15th. A couple of seconds back, so that pit stop cycle really worked in the favour of Ash Sutton. Sutton 1.3 seconds quicker in the box than Jamie Rushworth, but not as quick, interestingly, as Mark Fletcher. Mark Fletcher actually 2/10 quicker in the box than Sutton, so there's quite a lot of disparity in terms of time in the pits and who's wanting to risk it, who could maybe going to try and run to a fuel number. Interesting stuff. But at the moment out front, it's Alex Neller who leads the way in his Honda Civic Type R from Michael Evdoka for Pure Sims Racing, and Mikel Garcia for Full Send Racing, he's in 3rd.
Yeah, for Neller, I talked about this a little bit in race 1. He showed some flashes of speed this season as he's going to come into the pit lane. In fact, I was curious on that initial bobble. It looked like he turned in too sharply at first. But Neller has taken a few different sprint victories for the class. Very clean for the most part, outside of getting turned a couple of times in this one. But for the Boosted Motorsport machine, I will say, as long as he doesn't, well, he just massively boggled it.
Oh, Alex Neller missing his pit box and having to roll all the way, stick it in reverse and get back in. He'll be furious at that. He spends 24.9 seconds in the pit lane. That's about 3 seconds off where he really needs to be. That's so frustrating for Alex Neller. Very easy to do on the pit. It is a lot easier to do than it sounds. Believe me, trying to spot your pit box, especially in a field as packed as this, trying to look for your mechanic. There's only one of them there with the umbrella. We can't see it on our coverage, but the drivers can on their screens. So that's so frustrated for Alex Neller. Riding on with Paul Smith and his Team Mad Hyundai. Oh, just gets a little bit checked up there behind the number 3 of Jamie Rushworth, who has pitted. Paul Smith has not. So Paul Smith is in a whole gaggle of cars who have pitted, and well, I don't think this is helping anyone. It's not helping Paul, and it's not helping the cars who have pitted either.
Hopefully you get spawner for the day, and James Lawson is not in panic mode because, not to scare his team, they are last in anyone who has not taken a pit stop yet. Everyone else behind them's taken a pit stop. Good luck for Paul Smith at this point, and I wouldn't be surprised to say, okay, we gotta go in at this point. We're at halfway, estimated this time by for the drivers on the lap count, mind you. Is it really worth the risk to basically be the cork in the bottle for 4 or 5 other drivers here? As we take a look at Jensen, who is also much so is going long here.
Yeah, so Janssen looking maybe towards more of the same strategy that he had in race 1. Certainly worked in race 1, but he's coming from a very different position. Got Josh Thompson up ahead in the number 5 Hyundai, and just ahead of Thompson is the number 74 of Tyler Maxson, having a great run in this second race. Really getting into the groove now in that machine. A machine that I was going to say he's familiar with, but actually not. So late was the arrival of his race car for... Whoa, as Thompson goes up the inside of Maxson. That's a super move, actually. Very clean, very tidy. And now Janssen's going to have another go on Tyler Maxson here. And he gets it done. Tyler gives him the room. Very clever. But yes, just coming back to Tyler Maxson there, Justin. Of course, I was going to say he's familiar with the car, but not really, because the car arrived so late at Daytona that they couldn't even put the livery on it. It arrived in factory white, and they had to just run it in that, slap the numbers on and get running.
Yeah, I remember talking to him a little bit about that and asked, how much time did he get on the racetrack at Daytona? Because he went back home for a few days before the big events, the weekend and after. He mentioned, if I remember correctly, not too much. And I will say on the sim side, last round was his first start of the season. Really, the first meeting day, I should say, for the 3 sprint round events for points. And that was a learning adventure, it seemed, too, for Maxon, because race 1, he forgot to disengage the clutch pedal off the launch, and several drivers slammed into the back of each other from it. Second race, he got spun to the grass. Third race, well, it was intriguing, all the races, let's put it that way, for the Team Mad machine.
So a little bit of dicing going on here between Josh Thompson and Carl Janssen. This is over 3rd position right now. Janssen is on the headlight flasher hard. Tyler Maxson now just dropping off the scent of these two a little bit, but he'll catch up with them if they keep battling like they are. And of course, Kieran Harrison, he just lingers not too far behind. And don't forget Corentin Guinez. We've mentioned Corentin too many times tonight in the 333 car, but my goodness me, can he drive, the young Frenchman. And Harrison trying to find his way through on Maxson, and Maxson's not want to let him have it as well. Well, in fact, he does, leaves the door pretty open there as well, deciding to just pick his battles. And actually, there you go, that's racecraft for you as well, just trying to position his car exactly in the right position, just in the right place. And oh, what a great run. Corentin Guinez gets there as well, so he's got the run over Tyler Maxson now as well. Harrison gets by, but can Guinez get the run? I don't know if he's maybe got quite enough overspeed to get past the American on the left hand side there. Oh, just about. Guinez versus Maxson now down into turn 1. Here goes Janssen, he's going to have a look there on Thompson, but can't get it done. And Tyler Maxson, JP, just still placing his car where it needs to be.
Very deep on the brakes there, because you could tell a little bit there, Harrison was trying to feed the draft to the 333 to his teammate to be able to try and help him get by Tyler Maxson. Now he's actually trying to feed a little bit of draft to try and bait Maxson off his preferred groove here. That was a little bit dicey there and may open up the door. Maxson not falling for it fully there, just caught it in time.
And Guinez thought about sending it up the inside, but decided no, and a little bit of frustration there, flashing of the lights. Nothing to be aggrieved by, but maybe just frustration showing in now for Corentin Guinez. There he goes for the big send at the last moment. But Maxson again sees it coming. Tries to hold out, giving again fair room, not running off the circuit or anything like that. Oh, just a car's width and no more. And Guinez has made it work. Nice move from the Frenchman. Very, very good.
I will say the core drivers, I've noticed their strongest section is this sector right here. It seems like they have a little bit more grip when it comes to apex off to be able to help them pull off and away. Compare that to Maxson right here, for example. Near identical line, near identical brake mark, but just a little bit quicker for the core car, and Guinez in front. Just able to get that extra car length, and that really adds up the difference-wise, because if you're able to go earlier on the gas with the same line, with the same comfortability compared to somebody who may not have the same downforce level or grip levels with their tires, that's a big advantage when it comes to stopwatch and adds up maybe to a couple tenths a lap. Maxson did lose nearly 3 tenths last time.
Okay, now in a good spot though, I would say, Tyler Maxson, compared to his rivals. You'd have to say that really the course and racing drivers, they're going for the overall title. Tyler not running a full program so far. So just, of course, real world racing commitments, they certainly take up your time. So if he can just tuck in behind the course and racing guys there, he's got a perfect kind of train to latch onto. But Josh Thompson now, him and Janssen are battling over 2nd position. Janssen has the edge at the moment, and a 2.5 up the road. Someone we haven't mentioned, there he is in the white and blue Pure Sims Audi. Michael F. Doka leads by a 2.5. And all these drivers are kind of committed to the late strategy now, you'd think. And if Doka, he's looking pretty comfortable. The only thing I can think of, Justin, of some of the drivers who have pitted from the lead, or certainly pitted with clean air in front of them, is that they maybe feel they have to be running in the train to do the really fast times, possibly.
For some of them, possibly. But here's the thing. Sutton pulled away from the train, as we've been showing on this, by 5 seconds, Peter. And if things stand the way they are, Sutton still comes away with the race lead, depending on how much fuel's put in by some of these drivers, possibly. And I think it's just, again, the fact that they think, yes, the draft, but also knowing the intensity levels, how things are playing out, and knowing, for some, simple strategy is go around the halfway mark, split the race evenly, go 12 and 12. That's just, for some, the cause and effect. And as we see this fight here in particular, they know that there's a lot of battling about to happen, because Evdoka, he's losing time and bleeding and then some. Despite the fact these two are squabbling, despite the fact they were just side by side in that corner, they gained half a second last time by and have gained a 10th this straight.
Yeah, Janssen half a second quicker indeed than Evdoka. Even Thompson, as you said, even in the battle, just only a 10th of a second off Evdoka. If he can get a clean run, you might think that he's got a bit more pace underneath on number 51 Hyundai. 11 minutes to go. This is intriguing. Ash Sutton is in 12th at the moment, but is the leading driver who has taken his mandatory pit stop. The gap back is only 15 seconds, and as you say, Justin, that puts Sutton in a very good position at the moment. However, Sutton lasting by 143.3, Janssen at 143.0. Janssen's got to throw in the qualifying laps now as well, as that's a big lunge there from Harrison. Sorry, from Guinez. No, Harrison, I was right the first time. And that puts Thompson aside, and then Thompson barges past Maxon. Oh dear me. That is something we don't typically see from Kieran Harrison. Pretty heavy-handed, and I would think that Josh Thompson will be, well, the temperature will be high in the sim of that number 51 machine.
Josh Thompson? Possibly. But I will say this. Janssen is there for the race lead. Evdoka's saying, you know what, I've got to come on into the pit lane at this point. He's ducking down to give the lead to Janssen. And for Carl Janssen, along with the rest of the core cars, they have some of the best long-run pace we've seen of the day, up to half a second together right now than everybody else. And Max is just all on for the ride at this rate.
Well, this is one, although you might think, why are you comparing the lap time of the person in first and the person in 10th? Well, last time by, Carl Janssen 142.6, Ash Sutton 143.7, so there's 1.1 seconds between them in the favour of Janssen. Now, they're on completely different part of the racetrack. Why is that important? Well, Janssen needs to put more time into Sutton before he comes to pit lane, because at the moment he's not got enough of an advantage, he's not got enough of a buffer to take his pit stop and then hop out in front of Sutton. So we will keep a close eye on that lap delta. The gap at the moment, 15.8 seconds. That's not enough at this moment in time. Looking at the driver in 7th position there, or in fact number 25 and 8th, Mickey Doble, right behind Bobby Thompson there. And his teammate, Bobby Thompson there in white and blue, just in front as well. So two real world drivers there, with the incredible Callum Garton right in there too, in that number 22 car at the back of this pack. And yeah, great to see. I think Bobby Thompson's been superb in this World Touring Car Series so far. Be interesting to see who comes out on top as best real world driver, Justin, by the end of the season.
Especially knowing some of the ways some of the skills can translate from virtual to reality, or rather reality to virtual. For some it's not quite easy, for others it could be intriguing. Is what's going on for Newman? Is he having an issue speed-wise? Maybe it's a slow no. There's no indication of that either way. Newman saying hello.
Wide.
Yes,
he ran wide
right.
onto the grass. Yeah, just looked at it. Quite easy to do in a front-wheel drive car with this much power and torque. You can just basically, what's called torque steer, you can just sort of run wide when you want the car to turn, but it just wants to go straight. I was going to say, he hit his teammate there. He hit his fellow Hyundai driver, but not a teammate. And I think that was, now, who was that he made contact with? I couldn't quite pick out the car number. And some more contact at the back there as well, but they get through just about. Now, last time around, Carl Janssen 143.0, Kieran Harrison 142.9, Guinness 42.9, Sutton 43.7. So again, more time put into our effective net leader still, Ash Sutton. He's in 8th position, but he's taken his pit stop and is the leading driver who has done so. And with 7 minutes left on the clock, it can't be long before we see these Core Sim racing cars come into pit lane.
My question is how much have they been able to save fuel in the midst of the pack with all the checkups going on? That's the big thing for 1. 2, in terms of the interval, they're still about a full second, in some cases half a second quicker. They will maybe be within about 3 seconds based on what we've seen so far and be around where Josh Thompson is on the racetrack. Just based on the first race. But for Harrison, we're about to find out along with Carl Jensen. Did they do enough? Will they have enough time to work with? About 5 estimated laps to go.
Okay, so they want this to be as quick as possible. Kieran Harrison and Carl Jansen, they'll be going, come on, fuel pump, come on, fill, fill, fill. Now, where is Sutton? The good thing is it's very easy to spot as we've got a busy pit lane at the moment as Bobby Thompson's in, Mickey Doble's in. Here comes Sutton. This is going to be very tight. Ash Sutton in the Napa Racing Hyundai. Is he going to come out on top of the pile with 6.5 minutes to go? There he goes in the number 1 car. Yes, just about. He gets into the lead. So Ash Sutton, we thought it was a slightly alternative strategy, didn't we, JP, at the much earlier on in the race, but he has made this work as Ash Sutton.
Here's the thing though, Jensen and Harrison are just about within drafting distance. They pulled up just right where I expected, in front of Thompson and Avdoka. They have a realistic chance here. They're within 1 second of the 1 car.
Great point. And where does Guinness fit into this scenario as well? Does he have enough time in hand? Possibly not, but we'll see where he fits into this mix and where he slots in. But at the moment, Sutton leads this race with 5 minutes and 40 seconds to go. But based on lap times up to now, well, Carl Jansen and Kieran Harrison have had the edge on pace. But the one thing about Ash Sutton is, my goodness me, he is a racer renowned here in the United Kingdom as one of the best drivers in the country in hand-to-hand combat. So if you want to get the move done on Ash Sutton, you're going to have to work hard for it as well. But Jansen says, I want it. And, well, if Jansen can get past Sutton, a double is on here, JP, something I didn't think we'd see all season.
Witness is coming off the pit lane too, but here's the thing, he was a little bit further back. They were actually passing him. Despite a quicker stop, he's still going to be in the midst of the pack, not enough to pull on, and as he takes a wider line on this pit exit, only cycle amongst the top 6 grouping. If I'm Sutton though, I make this car as wide as possible. Don't turn yourself for the great point haul for this race after what happened in the first part of the day, but also don't make it easy. Hold on to it for your first victory of the season if you can.
Well, this would really put a shot in the arm for Ash Sutton's championship ambitions. He's in the top 5 of the championship at the moment. This would give him a really strong. We mentioned how important the feature race points are, and Jansen is all over him though. Jansen is all over the back bumper of that number 1 Napa Hyundai. But as we said, like you're absolutely spot on, JP. He has to make this car as wide as possible, and you can be sure he will. Jansen looked for the inside as well. Sutton gives him the inside and then shuts the door hard. Wow. He
nearly turned himself.
Jansen was quite expecting it.
Yeah, Sutton nearly turned himself across the nose, exactly contrary to the advice I said do not do. If I'm one of the core drivers now, if you get the run, you take it. Watch for the dive.
Okay, now this is where, whoa, big wreck at the final corner, and that's another one. Oh, is Guinness involved? Oh, it's a huge wreck at the final corner. And who is all involved in that one? It's a big old wreck at the 111 car, I think.
Magnan was in it, but now the Aircore car is side by side after the craziness.
Now that is really on the edge there. Really on the edge there for Sutton. Drives into the side of Jansen. Jansen will not like it, and you can be certain that if you pick a fight with Carl Jansen, he will give it as good as he gets. Make no mistake, so will Josh Thompson. This is coming down to the wire here at Interlagos. Ash Sutton still has the lead here. can Janssen do anything about it? Kieran Harrison, he's wanted to make up some points in his kind of a championship campaign that's really stuttered and struggled to get going. He's had all the pace, but just not results to match it. But Sutton still leads then. Janssen right behind him, and he will be, well, I would think he'll be pretty angry after that one, because that was a real heavy side-to-side impact there as well. Now, we heard Paul Smith mention it in our track guide before the start of this race. Draft is going to be important. That's a replay on the left. Oh, of the crash between Mangan and the triple one car of Mark Fletcher. A huge wreck and triggering a lot more casualties. So back at the front then, Sutton now has Janssen all over the back of him as well. And Janssen will have spotted that. He won't put his car in the same position going into turn one. He won't want the same treatment again from Sutton. And he's got a slightly better run here, JP. He's in the draft.
Using that speed we've seen throughout the entire night when it comes to the cornering. Going to be close if we get one lap or two here within about 3 seconds. Should see the white flag. They're under 1 minute and 44 seconds.
So last lap here in the World Touring Car Series at Interlagos, live on RaceSpotTV. They go side by side. Sutton deep on the brakes. A little bit of side-to-side contact there with Janssen as well. Now we saw Sutton come out of the last corner in the lead, and he was able to hold that lead to the line, so there is enough room as well. But here comes Harrison. He's going to have a go as well. Janssen's pushing Sutton down the straight as they go to Decido del Lago. Almost, well, yeah, 3 wide here. And Thompson, where's he come from? Josh Thompson's come in for the fun as well. So Josh Thompson has pulled a bit of a blinder here as well, but can't quite get it round Decido del Lago quick enough. Sutton now goes to the inside as well. This is carnage. Sutton holds the lead as well. He's left the door open a little bit. Is Janssen going to take it? Thompson rests on the quarter panel, and that gives Sutton a couple of vital car lengths as well. Here comes Thompson, really late on the brakes, and Janssen's going, what are you doing? You're letting him get in the way, and they touch! They tangle and they touch! Janssen and Thompson go back, and now it's up to Harrison.
Well, this is very dangerous here. Harrison needs to find a way to get up there is the big thing. Does Sutton have enough fuel too, though? He only had 7 seconds in the lane. He's got a cushion of 7/10 for the finish.
Well, Josh Thompson and Carl Janssen could have just done the biggest favour here to Ash Sutton. I think he has. If he's got enough left fuel left in that tank, he is going to take the checkered flag. Ash Sutton wins here at Interlagos. The checkered flag is in the air, and he's got enough of a gap. There it is then. Ash Sutton is your winner. Who's going to get second place behind him? It's going to be Harrison, with Guinez coming home in third, and Ross McFarlane, the wily old fox that he is, he comes home in fourth. So Janssen and Thompson, well, giving away soft points there as well, but also giving a golden opportunity to Ash Sutton. And if you give him these opportunities, well, he'll take them.
Yeah, they just let him have that opportunity on the silver platter because they were more focused, as seen Peter in the final laps, to fight for second than fight for first in most of the corners there. With how things fared out there, cost some of the end, obviously, point-wise, especially Thompson. But for Ashley Sutton, he reaps the rewards and has his best race of the entire season.
Yeah, he really was on form, and I think actually Ash Sutton really did deserve that. Okay, Janssen was running him down at the end, but Ash Sutton drove very, very well in the early stages, cut through the field, made his strategy work, and did enough to hang on there as well. A couple of pretty heavy-handed moves there, but that's touring car racing. Ash Sutton then, your winner, the number 1 Napa Racing Esports Hyundai from Kieran Harrison and Corentin Guinez. Ross McFarlane comes home in fourth, with Carl Janssen in fifth. He will be ruining a potential double victory gone begging. Michael Avdoka was sixth, followed by Tyler Maxon. A great finish for Tyler Maxon, with Jamie Rushworth the winner in the AM class in his Audi. Josh Thompson came home in ninth, with Jack Sedgwick getting a top 10 finish. Mikael Garcia was 11th, followed by Wojciech Savidovic, Pete Newman, Tom Dadswell, Neil Butler, Jake Blackhall, Fraser Smith, Dan Holland, Bobby Thompson, and Ollie Peacock rounds out the top 20. Alex Nella was 21st, followed by Ashley Beard, Lee Berridge, Johnny Walker, Craig Williams, Andy Shield, Ben Gregory, Adam Hedgecock, Paul Smith and Mickey Doble. 31st was Simon Field, Dan Robbins, Callum Reed-Garton, Yaroslav Kibula, Mark Fletcher, Rafael Dressaz, Oscar Mangan, Elliot Roberts, Robert Lundgren and James Corp round out the top 40. And Michael Polishek and David Baker round out your 42-car field after that early wreck for a number of drivers, but that taking David Baker out of the running. Well. That was what a run that was. And we will have more action for you in just a week's time. Donington Park National is next up as we reach round 5 of the season. Donington Park National, the slightly shorter layout, so it could be very, very frantic at the Derbyshire circuit. A circuit which our race 2 winner tonight, Ash Sutton, knows incredibly well, as does Bobby Thompson, of course, who we saw feature very prominently in that race. Well, Justin, final thoughts on that?
That second race in particular absolutely lived up to the billing, and the prediction of Benny nearly came true, it seemed, for some of the cases, because in the final laps, it could have went to any one of 6 or 7 drivers with how they were able to play things out strategy-wise from the get-go tonight. But the critical thing is, Peter, by the end of this one, was if you're able to have a clean run, be able to focus on your marks, and be able to run consistent laps, you put yourself in the conversation for the victory. If you spent time bumping, baiting, slamming, fighting all race long, you allow people to pull away, and Sutton took advantage of that in race 2. Compare that to Coors' approach for race 1, where they didn't have to go full bore to ride towards the front of the pack, and you've seen the difference. Sutton, great drive, great run in race 2, good teamwork, race 1 for Coors.
Certainly a brilliant night of action here in the World Touring Car Series. We'll be back same time next week here on RaceSpotTV, 7:45 GMT, 2:45 PM Eastern. We're going to Donington Park National for round 5 of this championship. Do not miss it. We'll have all the action here. Thanks for watching and good night.